Strategy into Experience, moderated by Rachel Nichols.
Is this on, as they say? There it is. We're back, people. Thank you so much. I'm very happy to introduce our panel today, one of my colleagues at Fox Sports, the Senior Vice President of Digital, Michael Bucklin. Also, colleague, one of our terrific women's soccer analysts, former U.S. I have to read all of your accolades here. Former U.S. national soccer team member, Bay FC co-founder, host of the Athlete Entrepreneurs podcast, Redefined, of course, Leslie Osborne. So thank you for being here. And the Vice President of Event Booking for SoFi Stadium and Hollywood Park right across the street here. So thank you very much, Adolfo Romero, for joining us as well. What we're here to talk about is the way the fan experience is in such a rapid state of change. You know, it used to be that your interaction as a fan with your favorite sports team would be basically buying a cap, watching your games on local TV, reading about your team in this old-fashioned thing called newspapers. And when you went to the stadium, the only thing to do was to sit in your seat and watch the game. Of course, it is a whole different world now. Fans can have a direct relationship with their favorite athletes through Instagram or TikTok, so sports media has a new challenge in finding added value. You know, an Eagles fan in Texas can now order a digital package up that lets him see every game and therefore maybe not going to his local Dallas Cowboy games, which, you know, is a challenge for teams. And going to the stadium itself, as we'll talk about, is sort of a festival of activations and other things to attach fans to the team. And this is all sort of in the landscape of us now firmly being in the attention economy, where here in LA on a Sunday, you know, the Rams aren't just competing with let's get people to the football stadium. They're competing with let's get people who may actually go to the beach on Sundays. Or you're competing with digitally, you know, every movie I've ever thought of is available to me on my 17 streaming services. I'd rather do that than read about certain things or listen to people break down games. So I just kind of wanted to start there. What are some of the strategies that each of you have carved out to convert maybe only mildly interested people into actual invested regular fans, consumers, customers, especially now that you're having to do it in this rapidly changing environment? So Michael, we'll start with you.
I think the people that are going to games they're fans. I think we know that about them. I think if you're going to try to attract new fans, you need to, you know, fish where the fish are. And they are in more places than they've ever been ever before. Some of them prefer to read. Some of them prefer to listen. Some prefer to watch short form. Some prefer to watch long form. And having a team that can create content that tethers that audience before, during, and after a live event is harder than it's ever been, but it's a bigger opportunity than it's ever been. Some prefer it vertically on a TikTok platform. Some prefer it wide on a website. Some prefer to listen over Spotify. Some prefer to read on a website. So we need to be in all those places, and we need to tailor it to them on the platform they're at so that they stick around and they have interest in actually going to that game in person or watching on TV.
Yeah, I'm going to speak from the multiple hats I wear, from being a podcast host and co-owner and also being a team co-founder of Bay FC. So regarding having my own podcast, I think podcasts can be a discovery tool. You know, for so long, fans only found their favorite players or personalities in real live games. Now, their first touch point can be podcasts. And now these podcasts can turn into social media reels, Instagram reels, or behind-the-scene TikToks. There's a way now to have a touch point for so many people. And with my show, Redefined, it features our athletes and it humanizes them as mothers, as athletes who have gone through some crazy challenges and some of the darkest times. And it allows the fans to connect with their personalities and athletes at a deeper level, a deeper connection, a loyalty. And now they start following that player, and then they start following the team. And so podcasts has opened up an opportunity to allow more storytelling and fans to discover these athletes. And then my other hat, being a Bay FC owner, Bay FC is integrating tech tools all the time in everything we do, from a ticketing perspective to a fan day perspective in the stadium to social media. I mean, we have a central hub. We have an app, BayFC app, where it gives our season ticket holders and any fans an opportunity to have their tickets on hand, parking information, stadium information, live events happening at the stadium. We even have a feature that can customize messages to our fans. It's incredible. We use FIVO, so it allows, group ticket sales to sit together. We have now new software at PayPal Park that allows new tech to do different storytelling, different cameras, to be able to allow every person at PayPal to feel like they are connected to our players on the field and enhance their fan experience. And also, BayFC might be one of the only women's pro teams out there tracking the fan journey experience and has a dedicated GNR team. So they are doing and integrating everything they can on a daily basis to make this not just a 90-minute game. It's not just about the game experience, it's everything around it.
Well said. I think for us at Hollywood Park and SoFi Stadium, you have a physical venue. And how do you immerse that with technology? And from a fandom perspective, from day one, Stan Kroenke wanted to build a global sports and entertainment destination. And for us, that meant really understanding different type of events. My role is we book the different events, and that's how we create fandom. Whether you're a Beyonce fan, you were there last night for Beyonce, or you're coming back for Monster Jam next week. We have soccer this summer, and of course, the Rams and the Chargers in the fall. So we really looked at what is Los Angeles made up in terms of a fan base, what type of events are people going to, and we wanted to utilize that platform to book events that our community we're going to come to, but also to expose it to the world and to the global aspect of it. So if you look at, since we opened in 2021 to fans, we've really strategically placed large marquee events, like a Super Bowl, like a college football playoff. We're going to host the World Cup, the Super Bowl again, and then the Olympics. But we're also very intentional in doing local events that are for our community. Inglewood, Greater Los Angeles, people that can come in on a day-to-day basis. But also on a yearly basis, we want to feature music. And we want to feature high school football. We want to feature the Honda Battle of the Bands. So through that, we've been able to really market different events to different consumers and create this fandom of going to SoFi Stadium, going to Hollywood Park, going to YouTube Theater, and it's really unique for a building like ours, and how we then look at data to progress, and we continue to book more and more of those events based on how we're seeing these events are doing. And that's how we build this strategy of really building a fan depending on what type of event you're going to, and how can we then mirror that for other similar events.
You guys really need to set up like a live YouTube, just sort of stream 24 hours of how you're going to convert SoFi Stadium into a swimming pool for the Olympics. So I'm excited about that outreach. That's going to be great. And in fact, I want to go this way now on the panel and start with you about how you use technology, data points, fan insights, to really shape the fan experience and also decide where you're going to invest your resources, because as Michael pointed out, there's a million places now to do it. So are you investing in more conventional means? Are you investing more in TikTok? Are you changing your overall strategy for that?
Yeah, and for me, I think for us, the journey starts when you announce an event, right? It's where are they buying their ticket? How are they buying their ticket? And really creating this anticipation of people wanting to be there, creating FOMO. And we look at all those data points and really, did you buy your ticket on a mobile platform? Did you buy your ticket on a desktop? Who bought the ticket? Who's the end consumer? Because then that gives us a lot of insights in terms of who's coming to the event and creating that journey of anticipation. And, in the old days, venues used to just announce, the Rolling Stones are coming to the stadium. Here's the ticket pre-sale, ticket on sale, buy your tickets, that's it. If you look at our channels, we're really building this anticipation of what's happening at the stadium. What should you expect? What kind of drinks you're going to be able to buy there? What kind of outfits you should be wearing to the show or to the game? And that's really created this anticipation. So for us, we've really invested in our storytelling for events, and then making the experience with our partners, because ultimately who comes into the building has to utilize the technology that we have to offer, right? So whether it's a sporting event or a music event, we have all the bells and whistles, but they need to also be able to understand how to use that. And that's really important. Obviously, both of our teams do on a day-to-day basis. They leverage that really well. But where there's some challenges on the venue side is sometimes you have a promoter that might be their first event doing an event at a large stadium like ours. How do they utilize our infinity screen? How do they utilize the LED screens that we have? And using the technology to be able to do that. So we really work with them so that they can understand the value add, because it's also pretty expensive, of how they can use that to better the event. And really, ultimately, enhance the fan experience that's coming in and creating that fandom that we talked about at the beginning.
Yeah, for us and our podcast, we look at the audience behaviors. We look at our podcast metrics, the demographics, the completion, all of that stuff. And it really goes in the hand of, what stories from these athletes that we're sharing resonates. And then do we turn that into long form for YouTube, short term for Instagram and TikTok, behind the scenes? No longer our podcast just audio. In fact, our show is both. And so coming from a linear TV background, it's very similar. We're storytelling, and people are consuming, these stories in such a different way, and there's such a great opportunity. One of our shows can turn into so many things for so many social media platforms and opportunities. And as far as another perspective, 2 years ago, I covered the Women's World Cup in Sydney for FOX Sports, and Michael called me and said, hey, I want you to be part of our digital team. And it was an interesting experience because coming from linear TV and covering the previous 2 World Cups, I didn't know a lot about the digital, world. And let me tell you, Fox is absolutely crushing it. What they did in Qatar, the World Cup before, myself, Melissa Ortiz, a former professional soccer player, influencer, and Jimmy Conrad, another former U.S. Men's national team player. We come with expertise, we came with credibility, but we got to live interact with our fans on Twitter, X, I'm trying to get used to that. But we had this opportunity that we had never had before to be able to, in real time, interact with everybody that was watching the games. It also gave us an opportunity as personalities on TV to bring out our own personalities, our own stories. We got to storytell. There are so many incredible athletes that are coming from so many crazy backgrounds that people don't know about. And because we were on air for a lot longer than you are in linear TV, we were able to storytell more. And I think that connection from the fans in real time, learning about the players, learning about the stories, how these federations are so under-resourced, and how, yes, the U.S. women's national team is living up here, and there are teams like Jamaica that have to fundraise to go to every World Cup. So Fox Sports and what they did with their digital team and what they're going to continue to do this summer gave an amazing opportunity to so many fans that maybe weren't soccer fans are now soccer fans.
Thank you, Leslie. That was very nice. Thank you.
Of course. You are.
Leslie brings up a great point. In fact, we probably should change the term podcast. It suggests an ear pod in your ear and you listen. The set we had in Australia had a background of the Sydney Opera House and the Sydney Harbour, and it was one of the most beautiful things that...
Not a bad place to be for 34 days.
Yeah, the visual is so important. And when I think about how technology has affected what I do in the content or the product game, you guys can all think back to those days when the Rolling Stones were saying they were coming to your nearest stadium. That's when people would take out their BlackBerry and they'd shoot the grainiest 4x3 video, and that was considered digital. And it was gritty. They might have, you remember those flip cameras? Terrible audio, but it could capture something. That used to be what defined digital. And that's not what defines digital anymore. Now digital is more of a mindset. It's about access, but it's not limited by technology anymore. Most everything we do in the digital space now is done in high definition. It's done in such high definition that we can recut the video tall, or we can cut it wide. And we had an experience a season or two ago with Caitlin Clark, where we actually had an in-house camera operator redo their safe bars on their broadcast camera to be vertical safe. And that in-house television cam op only shot Caitlin on an ISO cam. That's a far stretch from the BlackBerry camera. We've come so far, and we're streaming that from Iowa back to our control center in LA. We're putting high definition graphics on top of that with her individual player scorecard. So that's something that wasn't even possible 5 years ago. But that's the new expectation of fans, is that this is as high a quality, if not higher, and more interactive than the linear experience.
And you've also used data points to determine some of your coverage, right?
We use data so much. It's something so unique to digital that it's harder to pull on television. You can look at, minute by minutes, but we actually get second by second data in the digital space. And we spend an enormous amount of time, when Leslie talks about completion rate, in the video space, we see the first 5 to 10 seconds is important. We have reports come out every week on the attentiveness of our first 5 to 10 seconds. Because if you don't win the audience in that first 5 to 10 seconds, there's no chance they're going to see the rest of your content. It's like missing a shot short. It doesn't get over the rim. It has no chance of going in. We got to get fans over the rim. But we also use it to identify opportunities. And one of my favorites is during the Super Bowl, everyone and their brother was talking about the creator economy. Who are you guys going to hire as your creator? And everyone's looking on YouTube and they're looking on TikTok. We like people that play the game. I mean, we like people like Leslie. Like, she's a creator who played at the highest level. And that particular day, we looked at the NFL, we pulled data, and the most viral player of the entire NFL season was Jameis Winston, despite the fact that he didn't play for a team. And we called him up. He said, it's funny, I don't have a job right now. I'd love to be a reporter for Fox Sports. And we brought him to New Orleans, produced content with him for about 5 days, and it's the most viral, digitally viewed thing we've ever done as a company. And that was started by data.
That's crazy to hear about that. I wanted to ask you guys, what is one outdated assumption about fan behavior that people in the sports business world need to just let go of? And I'll start with you.
That nobody watches women's sports? I mean, come on. Together came out with this shirt last year that everybody watch women's sports. Like, there's so much opportunity now. When people say to me, oh my God, the U.S. women's national team is so good, or Bay FC plays beautiful football. I'm like, yeah, the U.S. has been playing beautiful football for 25 years. But now the access, the visibility, the media deals that we're signing, no longer are we on Lifetime. We are on ESPN. We are on Amazon. We are on the major networks. Now, so many fans and consumers can find our athletes through social media and platforms that we're talking about. Everybody is watching women's sports, not because it's this new thing. It has been here. The thing that has changed is the opportunity and visibility and access to watch them.
Adolfo?
Well said. I agree. We had the first ever women's national team at SoFi Stadium here in April against Brazil. And I'll tell you, it was one of the most special days. Just seeing all these young women coming in with their moms, with their dads, and having a great experience. I think for me is assume nothing. I think for us as a building, we wanted to be a building of the future, and we really wanted to assume nothing about that fan experience and really understand once it came in for that first time to SoFi Stadium, YouTube Theater. It's a discovery of Hollywood Park and all of our different spaces, and we're learning how the fan behavior is changing. And if you have a set assumption, then you're going to be failing already. For us, is we're constantly adapting how fans come in, where they come in through, why they have that drink, why they have that meal. We always look at that and the type of events that we do as well. So I think for us, it's let's not think of what used to be in the past, but what's coming in the future. And the building was built with all the technology for the future. How do we use that technology to make sure that it's coming to life in real life?
The single most watched soccer match in the history of America, Women's World Cup Final 2015. Let's go. In addition to retiring the word podcast, I would like to retire the word snackable. I think it suggests that fans don't have attention spans. I think that's completely overrated. They might be watching a lot of 15-second videos, but they're watching them for hours. They have attention span. We just need to be better creators to hold that attention.
And just to piggyback on what you guys said, yes, you're on ESPN now. You have deals with Amazon, that kind of thing, and women's soccer, obviously on Fox. But really the predecessor to all of that was the middle step from nobody's watching, and you had gatekeepers who were, frankly, men, at heading national television networks who said, no one's going to watch this, and there's nothing there. And they just couldn't get exposure because nobody believed it. And there was the middle step before you've gotten to now all of this exposure of digitally being able to reach people through platforms like YouTube or anything where there is no gatekeeper. And suddenly you can have a YouTube channel showing women's sports or women's soccer at a time before TV deals came around where suddenly you have millions of people watching digitally. You don't need someone to give you permission. So I think that's one of the major points you've been hearing throughout this whole panel, is that there are, as Michael said, so many different places, so many opportunities, and the biggest one is that everyone gets to decide what they want to do and be out in the world. And it's really fun picking all your guys' brains on how to do that. So thank you very much.
Thank you.